Hello, hello. Good to see you guys out here today. Welcome on in, everyone. I hope you're all doing well here today. This is Viperstrike 95 Flight Sim. I hope you're all doing well here today. This is day 47 of our Around the World trip, and we're going to be visiting our next country here in beautiful Latin America. But today we'll be visiting our next country. That's right, we're visiting we're going to start the first of 3 streams at our next Latin American country. We are going to be flying to in Mexico. So we're here back at Belize City Airport, Mike Zulu, Bravo Zulu, and today we'll be doing some flying over to the Mayan coast. We'll be checking out several really cool locations here on our trip. So that's something we'll be interested in visiting today. So guys, I hope you all enjoy your weekend. I hope you all have a good weekend for you guys. I know I did quite a bit of flying yesterday. I mainly did some stuff on mainly Pittsburgh, Las Vegas shuttles from Las Vegas to Pittsburgh and back. That's what I've mainly been doing. So that's what I've been mainly doing. I hope you guys are enjoying your time here in the sim. So let's go over the flight plan for today's stream for our little Nan Man. So we're back here at Belize City Airport. Belize City is where we're at here. We're going to depart from Phil Goldson, make a short hop, a 58 nautical mile short hop over to Chetumal Airport here in Chetumal, Mexico. Then from there, we'll make our way over to our second stop, a bit of a longer one. We'll fly our way over to Cozumel International Airport. And then once we go to Cozumel, we have one final leg. We'll fly over Chichen Itza for a bit. You guys probably know what that is. So we'll fly over to Chichen Itza, and then we'll finally get to Meridia Airport. We'll fly over Chichen. So that is where we're going to be going today. We're going to be flying the Douglas DC-3 here today. So we're flying the Douglas DC-3. Always enjoyed taking this thing out for a spin. So we're going to be flying this today. You guys all know the DC-3, one of the most iconic planes in history. Served not only as a civilian plane, but its military variant served in multiple wars, mainly World War II. And it's become one of the most iconic and legendary planes in history. Let's go ahead and before we get started, I want to say hello to all you guys here. My trusty moderator, Super Typhon's here. And I also want to say hello to all the lurkers once again. Good to have you guys here as well. Yeah, we're fun the retrofit version today. Since they want to fiddle with. Go ahead and get the flight plan set up. Let's go ahead and get this flight plan set up. Unfortunately, the hand thing still doesn't work, so we go. All right. So, yeah, Mexico is going to be the last country in Central America today we'll be visiting on this tour. This flight's going to be 358 nautical miles total. I did add additional airport. While we're not stopping here on this trip, we will be flying over it. And the reason I did that is because since this thing does have a heading mode, I decided to add it in to help the GPS navigation a bit. We're going to taxi all the way to runway 07. And our cruise, 1,500 feet is the safe altitude. We're going to cruise around 3,000 feet. I'm going to cruise around, for the first leg of the vent, we're just going to cruise to 3,000 feet. It gets a bit of altitude. So guys, I hope you enjoyed your old weekend. I sent the achievement over 6 knots, so he'll be working on it. But there's a couple things, but we got plenty of notes for Mexico for today, but we're not going to. So let's go ahead and take off. Here we go. And we just officially left the airport here in Belize City. Our first stop is going to be Check Mall. this will be our first stop of the day. We're going to head to Chetmel. This is going to be a 54 nautical mile flight. So that's where we're going to next. So I do have some notes about Mexico. Before we talk about history, I'm just going to go over a brief overview of Mexico for the first slide. That's because there's a lot about Mexico I do want to talk about today. So the country of Mexico, you won't believe this, but this is the world's 13th largest country by area with 1.97 million square kilometers. Its population is also almost at 130 million people, which is the world's 13th largest country by area with a population of over 130 million people. It has the most Spanish-speaking, it has the largest Spanish-speaking population in the world, more so than any other country, including Spain, Lima, and Colombia. Spain, Peru, and Colombia. Its capital largest city is, of course, Mexico City. It's one of the world's most populous metropolitan areas in the globe. It shares land borders with the U.S. to the north, Guatemala and Belize to the southeast, as well as maritime borders with the Pacific, Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. People have been around this area since 8000 BC. It's making it one of the world's 6 cradles of civilization. There's all sorts of native tribes, but the most well-known was the Aztecs. Prior to Europeans, the Aztecs became the dominant Mesoamerican power in the region, and once the Spanish took over this place, it became known as New Spain, and after 3 centuries, Mexico gained independence, and it had through a lot of upheaval and stuff. However, despite that though, with all the new challenges throughout its history, Mexico does have strong potential because of its 12th largest economy in the globe, and it's continuing to grow more and more so. It's also got tons of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and it's biologically insanely diverse. It's a far more diverse country than most people even realize. And it's one of the world's most visited countries, too. So Mexico, absolutely, is going to become a very important country, more and more so, coming in the future. So definitely keep an eye on Mexico. It has a lot of potential going forward. No, but the reason I didn't want to talk too much about history and stuff is because, well, we'll talk about Mexico's history and stuff on another leg, so this is just a really short hop over to Chetumal. So to our right, we can see the Belize Barrier Reef area. Still in this area here, if you look to our left, there's the Barrier Reef. So we're about to get near Chetmail. That's going to be in another about 40 nautical miles. We'll be getting here very soon. You can definitely tell with the barrier reef and all that. We're flying here pretty quickly. I hope you guys have a good weekend. So Merce finally back home from France. Apparently he didn't get an additional skin tone. I was hoping he didn't, so I'm kind of glad he didn't. There are been some flight sim news. There's a brand new airport for Fly to Hide called Aspen, which if you guys never flown there, which is Kilo Alpha Sierra Echo, Aspen Pickton County. I think I've flown to there in one of my streams. But this is a really cool airport. In real life, this is a very fascinating airport to fly into in the sim. Like, there are airline services, however, the only planes that are even allowed here is the CRJ 700s. So, and they fly like to Dallas, Austin, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston. But yeah, super cool airport. It's also one of the trickier runways to land on because one of the things is the terrain and stuff. Aspen is definitely very, very cool. The Fly to Hide released the airport. Elevation is 7,800 feet above sea level. It's one of the highest commercial service airports in the United States. And it's a crucial gateway to Aspen, one of the premier ski resorts and destinations in Colorado. It sees a fluctuation with traffic, primarily due to ski enthusiasts. Combine that with its challenging weather, Aspen can be a very tricky area. However, it can handle a wide variety of aircraft from small private jets to narrow-body airliners. So they now can see all of it, with featuring detailed models, with buildings and objects, handmade ground textures, and more. They also implemented accurately modeled and position dynamic lighting. And you can get this for pretty cheap. $8 plus tax. $8 is cheap. It looks pretty solid for $8. That's not bad at all. So, yeah, I really do like flying into the more mountainous parts of Colorado. I really do enjoy that. He was red. He was all red to me. Okay, he probably was then. I guess he gained an additional skin tone. I guess we'll rename him Three-Toe Murphy then. I guess we'll call him Three-Toe Murphy then. So yeah. Yeah, Aspen Airport, really cool stuff. Really cool airport visit. I definitely like flying in Colorado. Colorado is such a beautiful state to fly around in the center. There's a lot of really cool airports in that state. They got, of course, Aspen's a great airport to visit. I like flying in Aspen. Aspen's beautiful to visit. I mean, land there. I really enjoy Eagle County. Eagle County is one of my favorite airports to fly to. Eagle County is just stunning area. Which is in Gibson. Beautiful area. They put 757s down at that airport. And of course you have Telluride. That's also another very tricky place. Telluride, Colorado. That's another tricky airport to fly in and out of. And of course, there's other places in that state you can also fly with the airliners, like Gunnison, for example, or Grand Junction. Grand Junction's another beautiful airport to fly into. But yeah, the state of Colorado has some really great fun airports to fly to. It's very underrated area in the sim to do some flying around. Overall, a great area to do some simulated flying to. Great area. Yeah, so I think we're about to reach Chetmail very shortly. We reach our first stop. See how much far we're going. Okay, I think we're about 30 nautical miles away from Chetumal Airport. So let's go ahead and talk about our first destination of the day. We're going to be flying to Chetumal, Mexico. Going to be our first stop. There you go. So Chetumal, Mexico is going to be our first stop. Chetumal is located in the Yucatan Peninsula. Its Mayan name is Chactamal, means place of the redwood. It's the capital of the Mexican state of Quintana Roo. Population of 169,000 people. And it's situated at the west side of the bay, near the Rio Hondo. And it's an important port in the region as it operates as Mexico's main trade gateway with Belize. Goods are often transported via road connecting Chetumal with Belize City and also via merchant ship. Because of its location in the Caribbean coastline, it has been vulnerable to tropical cyclones, mainly with Hurricane Janet and Hurricane Dean, both Category 5, making landfall near there in 1955 and 2007. There have been multiple revolts around this area by the Mayan people. As well. But one of the more important parts about Chetumal, there's a couple of places to visit here in the city. There's several museums, including a fine arts museum, Museum of Mayan Culture, which is the largest and most comprehensive museum in the state dedicated to Mayan culture. You also have a monument, the monument to the flag, which is a white obelisk that has a collectile. And of course, there's also a couple of parks and zoos and stuff too. So Chetumal definitely has that as well. And it is currently a growing city, especially with its economy with trade for Belize, but also with tourists visiting here too. So definitely a pretty cool area to visit, of course, here in Mexico. And finally, we're going to be landing at our first stop here at Chetumal International Airport. It serves domestic flights from Chetumal in the southern Quintana Roo region, as well as executive G activities, hosting facilities for the Mexican Navy. In 2023, it served 335,000 passengers, which makes it 42nd busiest in Mexico. Currently has one runway, 7,200 feet runway, and its main destinations include Cancun and Mexico City, the two destinations. And it's between both the original Mexico City Airport, Benito Juarez, and then the newer Felipe Angeles Airport. As well, are the only two destinations. So that's a little bit of information about Chetumal International Airport. Here's the Bay of Chetumal. Absolutely gorgeous area. So here we go, guys. Chetumal's coming up really soon. We'll just land here. This is a pretty short first flight. Second leg's going to be a bit longer, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Here's check them all. So, that's going to be our first stop. The water looks absolutely gorgeous here today. Again, this area is very popular for a lot of the tropicals. But we're going to make our first lane of the day here. Go ahead and reduce the volume of this. Now that's because I'm going to have to put on the effects. So I got next week's schedule planned for next week's schedule. So for next week, I think I got next week's plans thought out. So next week, we're going to be on Wednesday. We'll be in Pittsburgh for next Wednesday. So we'll be flying around Pittsburgh for our new mystery shuttle. I think I picked out a few destinations in mind. Some of the ones in the initial route would include New York LaGuardia, Chicago O'Hare, Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, and finally Toronto. And of course, there will also be a mystery section, which I'll tell you where, and I'll show you guys where the airport of what I picked. That wasn't your original. Keep an eye on that, okay? We'll also be back as well on Friday and Sunday. We'll be doing the other two flights into Mexico. We'll be doing first an airliner flight from Meridia down over to Mexico City. And then on Sunday will be the GA flight from Mexico City to Puerto Vallarta. Should be absolutely gorgeous. There we go. Welcome to our first stop, everyone. In beautiful Chetumal, Mexico. Here's our first stop. See, this was a pretty short first stop, so if you guys want to join on in, here we go. we'll just briefly stop here. So you guys are more than welcome to join on in. Thinking our first stop here as well. Hey, Angry One Heart, good to see you. Welcome on in, my dude. I hope you're doing well today. We're just taking a quick break for just a bit before we prepare for our second leg over from Chetumal over to Cozumel. We're doing some flying in Mexico, so we can get back up to the air event and make our way down to Mexico. So I hope you're having a good day, my dude. Let me get a shot for Angry One Horn. Let me get a shot for you, my friend. If you guys haven't checked out Angry One Horn, he's a longtime friend of the channel. He does a lot of really cool GA stuff. So definitely check him out. We're just having some good time with the DC3. I know we're getting closer to, this is our last Latin American country we'll be visiting. We'll be doing it in a span of a couple streams. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, change the aircraft for today's Sunday morning breakfast. Oh, yeah. Then cut with a new computer. Ah, gotcha. That's right. Because you got yourself a new computer, oh, that's right. You have to reload the warrior and re-authenticate it. That's right. You have a new computer, you have to re-authenticate a lot of stuff. Yeah, no worries. As long as you get there over the air safely, that's all that matters. Definitely for sure. So, we're going to go ahead and learn about Mexico's history for a bit. So, once we get up to 3,000 feet, we'll talk about Mexico's rich history. Now, you guys all know about Mexico's history, right? If it's one thing Mexico is really well known for, it is the fact that Mexico's history is quite turbulent, to say the least. You see, unlike many other countries in the Americas, like there are plenty of countries in the Americas that have turbulent histories, like Brazil's, Argentina's, Chile, like, and even like Peru and stuff. Like they had turbulent histories, but that's mainly during the 20th century. Mexico has always been turbulent. Its turbulence is only rivaled by that of Haiti. Because the thing about Mexico's history is it's been always had upheavals of some sort, whether it be domestically or with international powers had interest in Mexico. It's always been turbulent. So that's something I do want to let you guys know about Mexico's history. Same with the arrows. I guess I'd be doing that stuff with all the stuff. Yeah, I feel you, my dude. I feel you 100%. Hey, Gas Can, good to see you. I'm having a good morning, my dude. I hope you're having a good morning as well. We're visiting our last Latin American country today, in Mexico. So the plans I'm going to be doing after Mexico would be Puerto Vallarta. Actually, I'm going to be doing a flight over from Puerto Vallarta and maybe to Phoenix, so I can leave Mexico to the United States. I think that's what I want to do. How far was it from Puerto Vallarta to Monterrey? Like MTY to Phoenix. I guess I could do Puerto Vallarta to Monterey and then Monterey to Phoenix. I think I might do that. I might do Puerto Vallarta to Monterey and then Monterey over to Phoenix. Which I know that's going to be longer than normal, but it's a Friday, so I don't really mind. Because I do want to visit Monterey, which is Mexico's second largest city. And I definitely want to go check out Phoenix, Arizona. So Phoenix is where we're going to end up on the stream. I could also fly to Tucson. But I want to fly straight to Phoenix. That would be... So I think that's what I'm going to be doing. After the Puerto Vallarta stream, fly over to Monterey and Phoenix. And I'm thinking about... I'm probably going to want to take the 777 for that, because I have not taken the 777 at all in this series. So I want to take that for that. I mean, I could fly to Texas, but I'd rather fly to Phoenix, because I want to get up to Asia next. So then after the Monterey Phoenix flight, and it will be to Phoenix to Vegas, then Las Vegas over to Lake Tahoe, and then go from Tahoe and check out the Pacific Northwest. Probably make our way to Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, and then make our way up the Inside Passes of Alaska. Eventually make our way down over to Ketchikan, Inside Passage over to Juneau, make our way up to Whitehorse, fly up there and fly along the mountains to Denali, get to Anchorage, and then fly straight from Anchorage over to Japan. Which again would be a long flight, but I mean, I want to do some flying in Japan. Yeah, Mexico is just but yeah, as well Mexico can be Mexico can be quite violent. And speaking of it, how did exactly Mexico get to there in the first place? So Mexico's history is diverse, to say the least. You see, before the Spanish arrived, and you look at the indigenous civilizations, the earliest people have dated back to Mexico almost 10,000 years ago in some of the remains, making it one of the 6 cradles of civilization. The earliest complex civilization in Mexico was the Olmec culture, which came around with the 1500 BC. They first on the Gulf Coast, and some of their traits diffused into other cultures like the Chifas, Oaxaca, and the Valley of Mexico. During like the pre-classical period of indigenous tribes, the Maya and Zapotecs developed complex centers. In Calakmul and Mount Alban. And during this time, you had the first true Mesoamerican writing systems. throughout their cultures, and at the high point, it reached its height with the classic Maya. In central part of Mexico, which was the center where Mexico City is at, of course, was the height of the classic period, with the rise of Teotihuacan, which established a military and commercial empire. Its population had over 150,000 people and had some of the largest pyramid structures in pre-Columbian Americas. However, after the collapse in 600 AD, competition ensued between several political centers in central Mexico. And also at this time, the Nahuatl people moved south from the north and became culturally and politically dominant in central Mexico. Finally, in the last pre-Columbian era, which is 1000 to 1519 AD, central Mexico was dominated by the Toltec culture, the Oaxaca by the Mixtec, and the lowland Mayan centers of Chichen Itza. And finally, the last was the Mexica, based on the city that is now Tenochtitlan, which of course is Mexico City. Yes, fun fact about Mexico, about that. The Mexico City used to be a lake. No kidding. All of this area where Mexico City was actually a lake. The Spanish actually drained the lake following it. And that's what they built modern Mexico City out. That's why when you ever see some of these old artists and paintings, you actually see all this area is built on a lake. And they had a complex trade network. They had unique agriculture, marketplaces, buildings. They got lots of ways for the economy to work on. It is such a unique as well. It's such a unique stage to learn about when you look at the history. And that was at the height of the tribes as well. And that's why the Aztec is for mainly the Mexica, where they also know it's Aztec. Probably where you get it. Oh yeah, the water color is gorgeous, man. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous out here. It's gorgeous. I don't disagree with it. It's pretty. Like, I do like Mexico. Mexico's really cool. I would like to visit much more than just the ports areas of Mexico. Like, I did visit Cabo, I did visit Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. I definitely enjoyed these areas. But the parts of Mexico I really want to explore, maybe Mexico City would be nice. Chichen Itza would be cool. Monterrey, I heard Monterrey's not too bad to explore. There's quite a bit of Mexico I do want to check out, to explore. So the Europeans came around this area, and mainly the Spanish. While the Spanish did have colonies in the Caribbean, however, they decided to explore the east coast of Mexico. And they first learned of it in 1518 during the Juan de Rijal expedition. However, it wasn't until the Spanish decided to conquer the Aztec Empire, began in 1519, led by conquistador Hernan Cortez, when he founded the city of Veracruz, and he went all the way through the Aztec Empire. Now, during that time with the Aztecs, mind you, the Spanish only did this with about only 2,500 to 3,000 infantry and 100 cavalry, along with a few other indigenous tribes, because many of them did not like the Aztecs. Because, well, the Aztec society that's because the Aztec Empire had some really, they didn't like the Aztecs. While they took on the Aztecs in the hundreds of thousands, and yet, despite that, the Spanish successfully conquered the Aztec Empire. And it ended in 1521 when they captured the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. Was the beginning of 300 years of colonialism by the Spanish, and it became now known as Nueva España, New Spain, and it made it the jewel of the Spanish Empire, thanks to its large amount of Mesoamerican populations for tributes and with labor and vast silver deposits in northern Mexico, and that created, you guessed it, the crown jewel Spain. It also gained a lot of power for the Catholic Church. spread Christianity as well to convert a lot of the indigenous people, and eventually led to the Catholic faith being a lot stronger. Though there were quite a few rebellions, but mostly they were quite small scale local and posing no threats. However, Mexico was also a valuable target for pirates, for the English, French, and Dutch pirates. As well. But eventually, though, there was unrest within the empire, and mainly with the Napoleonic Wars. And you guys all know the Napoleonic Wars. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, pretty unique. But with the Napoleonic Wars and Spain being occupied by Napoleon Bonaparte, in Mexico, elites argued that sovereignty reverted to the people, and eventually, on September 16, 1810, the secular priest Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla declared against bad government in Dolores, and it became known as the Cry of Dolores, which has become a national holiday as Mexico's Independence Day. Him and his soldiers were captured and executed in 1811, but despite that, Mexico gained its independence from Spain. And the thing is, for the first 35 years, it was very politically unstable, and there were a lot of changing and stuff. From a monarchy to a fragile federated republic, there were coups d'etats, foreign invasions, ideological conflict between conservative and liberals, and economic stagnation. No, seriously, Mexico was not stable one bit. Eventually, the monarchy originally stayed in power as a monarch. However, eventually, though, the monarchy was abolished in 1824 and became a constitution of a federated republic, becoming the first Mexican republic, with its first presidential republic being former General Guadalupe Victoria, one of the first of many army generals to actually become the president of Mexico. One of the first of many of them was president. Also, in addition to this as well, one of the more interesting things that happened during this time was Mexico had a lot of issues, not only internally with different wars and stuff, but also the internal between the liberals and the conservatives. This has been an issue for this as well, and mainly because, well, the liberals wanted a form of decentralized government, while the conservatives wanted a hierarchical form. And it caused a lot of contention within the Mexican society, and it's been a major issue through much of the 19th century. And finally, they also contended with a lot of indigenous groups. For example, the North was the Comanche, which controlled a huge territory partially in central northern Texas, and in order to stabilize the area, Mexico had chosen to settle it with Anglo-American immigration to Texas. Which, if you guys are aware of your Texan history and your American history and all that ended up being a pretty big mistake for the Mexicans. Because guess what? Those Anglo-Americans, well, they rebelled against the Mexicans. They won in the Texas War, and eventually became the Texas Republic. And that later became integrated into the United States and began the Mexican-American War in 1846, when the U.S. invaded Mexico, and eventually Mexico City was even taken in the war. And in 1848 sealed its fate in the Guadalupe Hidalgo, which Mexico lost a lot of its northern territory, as it lost quite a bit. Mexico at this point, before it had the northern territory, it went as far north as modern-day California, Nevada, and Colorado. And it lost most, if not all, that northern territory during the Mexican-American War, with Santa Anna as a president. He was then exiled, and eventually they established a more liberal government, trying to replace a lot of it was indeed. Oh yeah, I forgot all that. Here it is. here's the last slide I was just mentioning. First president of that as well. He abolished slavery, and of course, with the immigration with Texas. Sorry, I sometimes get a little carried away myself. So there's Santa Anna, which led to the Mexican-American War, and it ended up being disastrous, as Mexico lost most of its northern territory. Still got to keep a lot of their southern stuff, but not the north. So eventually the liberals decided to want to liberalize the government by modernizing its economy and institutions among liberal principles. They promulgated a new constitution in 1857, which separates the church and state. But, however, the conservatives revolted and launched a civil war between the conservative and liberal governments. The liberals actually have beat the conservatives on the battlefield. However, the conservatives had a different answer to solve that problem. They actually got foreign intervention from the French. And they actually asked Emperor Napoleon III to place a European monarch as head of state in Mexico. And that led to the French intervening and defeating the Mexican army and placed Maximilian Habsburg on the throne. Supported by Mexican government, it became known as the Second Mexican Empire. However, the Liberal Republic under Benito Juarez was a government in internal exile, but after the U.S. Civil War, the United States government aided the Mexican Republic, and after 2 years later, withdrew the supports, and eventually, once that happened, Republican forces captured Maximilian, and he was executed. And because of all that working with the French and all that, conservatives were also discredited politically thanks to that, and liberalism became the new dominant force in Mexican politics. As well. Fun enough, one of the other things that came around during that intervention stuff between the French and Mexicans was actually Cinco de Mayo, which actually came from the Battle of Puebla, which Mexicans beat France, and it became the celebrated holiday of Mexican heritage. So that's pretty interesting as well. After the turmoil from 1810 to 1876 with the wars, Mexico actually had some stability thanks to Liberal General Porfirio Diaz, allowing Mexico to finally modernize and rapidly modernize in a period of order, characterized by economic stability and growth, for significant more investment influence, and expansion of railroad and telecommunications. It led to a new era of peace in Mexico, which was actually surprising. However, government political opposition was kind of suppressed, and it ended up changing a lot of Mexican history because after he left, there was a revolution, the Mexican Revolution, of course, and this was a decade-long conflict. It started with a lot of the scattered uprising between President Diaz. After his resignation, rebel forces moved in, and combined that with the interim presidency of a member of old guard, Francisco Madero, eventually led to a military coup to overthrow it with U.S. support, and it caused another civil war. And eventually, in 1916, the war was won over by the winners to constitute the Constitution 1917, to strengthen the 1857 Constitution. It was a very internal conflict, but also had significant international stuff. And then, of course, it didn't truly end, because Pancho Villa also attacked U.S. forces in 1915, when he led to an incursion raid to Columbus, New Mexico, prompting U.S. troops to send 10,000 troops to hunt down and capture Villa, which became known as the Punitive Expedition. But eventually the Civil War ended in 1920, which finally ended the Civil War in Mexico. Um, After the post-revolutionary period, from 1920 to 1946, was characterized by revolutionary generals serving as presidents of Mexico, including Alvarado Obregón, Puerto Ellis Calles, Lazaro Cardenas, and Manuel Macho. And mainly, the post-revolutionary project was seen to bring order to the country in military intervention of politics and create organizations of interest groups. Workers, peasants, urban office workers, and even the army were incorporated into a single party that dominated much of Mexico's politics. The Institutional Revolutionary Party, which, no joke, ruled uninterrupted for 71 years, from 1929 to 2000, which is pretty crazy. That'd be like if the Democratic Party won every election from 1919 to like 2008. Single party dominance. Pretty crazy. Obviously, Calles, when he was president, provoked a major conflict called the Civil War between them and the Catholic Church, which eventually, Calles, as a result, Cardenas won over the war, while the weakening of the Catholic Church. Also, Cardenas also nationalized the Mexican Eco Petroleum Company, becomes now known as Pemex, which originally had a democratic crisis, but ultimately it played an important role in Mexico's development. And finally, Camacho was more moderate, and because of his more moderate positions, U.S.-Mexican relations vastly improved during World War II, and it became a significant ally, providing manpower in the war effort. From 1946 onwards, the first civilian president in the post-revolution period, Mexico began a great for an economic development, which became known as the Mexican Miracle, characterized by industrialization, urbanization, and an increase in inequality in Mexico between urban and rural areas. The Green Revolution also helped out too. With that economic growth, Mexico decided to showcase it to the world by hosting the 1960 Summer Olympics, the first ever Summer Olympics to be held in a Latin American country, where the government put a huge amount of resources to new facilities, but it did lead to political unrest amongst university students and others, which led to the culmination being the Tlatelolco massacre, which killed around 300 protesters. During the 1980s, there was the first crack of PRI's dominance, mainly with the PA candidate from Baja California, Ernesto Apple. And as a result, in 1988, there were a lot of electoral fraud, showing that Salinas won, though there were massive protests. And eventually, Salinas began on neoliberal reforms, and one of those was NAFTA, which was in 1994, which removed Mexico's autonomy over trade. There was also the Zapata army trying to rebel against the government, and it still continued as nonviolent opposition. However, nowadays, there is one big change in Mexico's history. In 2000, the PRA finally lost the presidential election to Vicente Fox of the National Action Party, the PAN. The PRA did win the presidency again in 2012 with Enrique Peña Nieto. Currently nowadays, right now, Mexico still has to contend with lots of crime, corruption, narco trafficking, and stagnant economy. However, nowadays, Mexico's economy has been improving considerably. If it can fix its crime rates and all that, Mexico would be put itself in a really good position. So that is Mexico's history in a nutshell. So definitely a surreal one. Yeah. very cool. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the history lesson with me today. I won't talk too much more about Mexico for a bit, because I'm trying to save the slides for next Friday's slide. Because there's still plenty to learn about. And of course, I also have to talk about Chichen Itza today. So, and that's very important to learn about, because I know you guys want to learn more about Chichen, one of the crown jewels of Mexico's national heritage. So I don't think we're too much farther from our next stop in Cozumel. But yeah, about the Yucatan stuff, there's some pretty important airports. I know Meridia is going to be one of those, but the region's biggest airport in the Yucatan is Cancun. And I think you guys know why Cancun is such a busy airport. Because there is a lot of tourists that fly their way down to Cancun, New Mexico. So we're just going to go ahead and make our way here. I think we're about, according to my estimates, we'll be about 60 miles. We're about 50 nautical miles away from Cozumel. So we're not too much far away from Cozumel. Go. We're doing quite well here as we make our way to Cozumel. Hey, Filthy, good to see ya. Welcome on in, my dude. We're currently flying here in Mexico today. We're flying around the Mayan coast. We're making our way to our second stop in Cozumel. We departed from Belize earlier, and we're now making our way over to beautiful Cozumel, Mexico. hope you're having a good weekend, my dude. Oh yeah, and speaking of schedules and stuff, well, Murph's gonna be back for next week, so he put next week's schedule for Murph. On Murph's channel, on Monday, he'll be back with the Euro Crash Flight Edition inspired by the Grand Tour. He's gonna be flying all the way from, he's gonna be starting all the way in Poland at Gdansk Airport on over Poland's landscape, making our way to the historic city of Poznań. So it should be interesting to fly in Poland. Polska. He'll be doing Euro Truck Sim on Tuesday, Wednesday being Flight Sim, and then Friday will be with the Twin R in Cyprus. Pretty nice. So. We're making our way to Cozumel. Now, a little bit of fun fact about Cozumel. Cozumel's actually an island, by the way. Cozumel's actually an island, but the main settlement we're talking about here is San Miguel de Cozumel. It's actually the main settlement on the island. Population 77,000. It's the fourth largest community in the state after Cancun, Chetumal, and Playa del Carmen. It's a hub for tourism on the Riviera Maya, providing ferries between the Mexican mainland and the island. And it also is well known for one of the largest ports in the world, the Cozumel port, which receives over 3 million cruise ship passengers every year. 3 million cruise ship passengers, which is pretty crazy. And the reason why people like to visit Cozumel tourism is because, well, you have all the amazing coral reefs. Scuba diving is fantastic for scuba diving. It's as a result, it's a very popular tourist destination, and there's tons of things you can do in Cozumel. Of course, scuba diving's big, but there are plenty of other things to do here. But there's a lot of excursions. Of course, you have the Tulum Mayan ruins you could visit in Tulum, which you have to take a ferry across to the mainland to get there. But there's Tulum. There's the Cozumel Beach Escape, Mexican Fiesta, cooking. They got cenotes and caves and caverns, zip lines, Petrocross, beaches, ATVs, submarine, which I did the submarine one, which is really cool. Got to explore the reef. Got some pretty cool stuff. There's plenty to do in Cozumel to spend your day with. And then finally, we get to visit Cozumel Airport. We get to visit Cozumel Airport, which is Mexico's 9th largest airport for international passenger traffic. The main airport that serves Cozumel serves as a year-round secondary gateway to the Mexican Caribbean. Last year it handled 677,000 passengers, which is 32nd busiest in all of Mexico. And it mainly connects to Mexico City, Cancun, and tons of seasonal flights to places like Toronto, Montreal, Dallas, Miami, Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Houston, and even LA. But lots of seasonal stuff makes their way down here to Cozumel. However, that's not the airport a lot of people do fly to. If you want to fly around this region, really, you want to be flying to Cancun Airport, which, no joke, is Mexico's second busiest airport with 32 million people. Um, with 32 million passengers fly to Cancun. No joke. That airport serves a crap ton of destinations, and it doesn't just serve Mexico either. It serves to nearly every most of Mexico's major cities, plus even popular in Canada, the United States, Central America, South America, and even Europe. The only continent it does not serve is Oceania and Asia. Yeah, Cancun, major city, is the Cancun. Yeah, maybe Cancun becomes Firefly Air's Caribbean hub or something like that for Central America or Mexico. I don't know. But I think Mexico City would probably work pretty good. I would like to have a hub in Mexico because that way we don't need a hub for Central America. We can have Mexico be the hub, connect to Quito and all that. That's just me. So here it is, guys, Cozumel Island. Now, a little bit about the island of Cozumel itself. It's home to different species of birds and animals living here. Including like different birds like the Cozumel emerald. It's also got home to native wildlife like the American crocodile, spotted toadfish. It even has its own species of raccoon. It's got a rich history from the Mayans who settled here too, and there's still some Mayan ruins all across the island. But this area became a major cruise ship port, however. So. Here's the island of Cozumel. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to visit back the United States again. A place I'm much more familiar with than I'm with. Here it is. Cozumel. Yeah, this all here is the island of Cozumel. Now I've done plenty of stops in Cozumel more than a few times during my vacation. I think I've been to Cozumel 3 times. One was my first trip, Orlando. We did a Western Caribbean one to Cozumel, Costa Maya, which was actually in Mahual, and in Roatan. Second time was we did one to Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and then Cancun. That was from New Orleans. I think we'd been there twice. And I think we're going to be visiting Cozumel again in October. This October, to the Panama Canal. Cozumel is going to be one of our stops. We're going to be visiting her 3 times in Cozumel. Pretty crazy. We'll be visiting. I mean, visiting them 3 times. I think we have enough tank for the next leg. We'll be stopping here for a bit. This is the port area. A lot of this area right here is the cruise ships. They port right in this area right here. Now that, imagine multiple cruise ships that can hold like 3,000 people. Go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and welcome to Cozumel. Yeah, what a beautiful day. Go ahead and make our way here in Cozumel. There you go. Here we go, guys. Cozumel. That's our second stop. We still got one last leg left to go, and that is to Meridia. So if you guys want to join on in, we are in the Southeast Asian server. We're heading to Meridia next. I forgot to. I forgot elements. So let's go ahead and deal with our last leg. We're going to be going ahead and make our way over to Meridia. Let's go. Last leg, guys, before we get going. we're now officially going to cross over to beautiful. We're going to go to Chichen Itza International Airport. That's our next waypoint, and I picked it not because we're going to land at the airport, but mainly because you're keeping us in a straight line to our main place we want to visit here. So it's halfway between the waypoints. Because we're going to talk about the other main topic for today's stream, which is Chichen Itza, one of the really great places to visit here. We're about to cross over, and now we're going to enter to our stop here. So we're going to be talking about Chichen Itza. Once we cross over into the mainland, we'll be starting to talk about Chichen Itza, one of the really cool gems of Mexico's heritage, of its indigenous heritage. So yeah, guys, we're gonna get our way over to Chichen Itza. So here we are, guys. Chichen Itza. This area is one of the most important archaeological sites in all of Mexico. You see, this was actually a large pre-Columbian city built by the Mayan during the Terminal Classic period. It's located in the Tinanam municipality of the Yucatan State, Mexico. It was a major focal point in the northern Mayan lowlands for the late Classic, Terminal Classic period into the early portion of the post-classic periods from 600 AD until 1200 AD. This site contains a multitude of different architectural styles, reminiscent of the one seen in central Mexico, as well as the Puc and Chin styles in the northern Mayan lowlands. The presence of these styles was once thought to be representative of direct migration or even conquest, but turns out many of them are from cultural diffusion. It's one of the largest Mayan cities, and was likely to be one of the mythical great cities in Mesoamerican culture. And it's said to have the most diverse population in the Mayan world. Currently, right now, they are maintained by Mexico's Instituto Nacional de Antropología y Historia, or the National Institute of Anthropology and History. The land under the monuments has been privately owned until March 2010, when it was purchased by the state, and it's one of Mexico's most visited archaeological sites. Over 2.6 million tourists in 2017. Such a cool area and one of the world's great places. It is in the sim, which is why we're flying over it today. The name Chichen Itza comes from the Mayan name. It means at the mouth of the well of Itza, which references the water and all that. Because this area was a water well during that time. And this area has a lot of underground rivers, which is probably why it got its name Chichen Itza from. So, the economy during this time, it was a major economic power of the Northern Maya. It did a lot of waterborne trade through the routes, different peninsula, and it was able to obtain locally unavailable sources from this area, like obsidian and gold, making it a major trade hub for the region. And between 900 to 1050 AD, it became a powerful regional capital, controlling north and central Yucatan. So the history of this place is quite interesting. During the late Classic era, the layout was developed during its earlier phase, with its final layout developed after 900 AD, and the 10th century saw the rise of the regional capital. The city was centered upon the area to the southwest of the Soto Lake cenote, with the main architecture being the observation platform. However, it mainly rose to regional prominence during the early Classic period in 600 AD. However, it was the late Classic that became the capital. All sorts of different buildings, and is essentially correlates with the decline and formation of other major centers in the southern Mayan lowlands. As it rose to prominence, cities of Yaxuna and Koba were suffering decline, and the two cities have been neutral allies, so it became classing both cities. Now, if you wonder how the city even declined in the first place, well, according to some colonial sources, they said the ruler of Mayapan, Hunak Seal, conquered Chichen Itza in the 13th century. However, nowadays, and while there was some archaeological evidence that said that being fact, their great evidence was not by by Mayapan, but instead, it declined through its activities and stuff. It did have a thriving local population, but not nearly as much as well. Speaking about the Spanish did take over this area during the 16th century. And eventually the Spanish were driven out of the Yucatan Peninsula, though the Spanish did return there by the late 16th century. So if you wonder about the modern history of Chichen Itza, well, believe it or not, it was actually in 1843 with John Lloyd Stevens writing a book called The Incidents of Travel in Yucatan, when he visited he recounted his visit there to the Mayan city, including Chichen Itza, which prompted other explorations of his. Visitors often came with photographic equipment during the 1870s and 80s, mainly with Augustus Lee Plongeon, and more. one big person that came here to visit was Edward Herbert Thompson from the United States. And he explored the city for 30 years, and he did a lot of excavations during this time. Gold, copper, jade, and pre-Columbian minor cloth and wooden weapons. And then Carnegie also explored this area too. Take a look more about that. There's also been more expeditions throughout the 20th century, most recently in 2009. But the modern history of it was definitely very interesting. Now, of course, the site description. If you look at the map, here I posted a picture of the map here in Chichen Itza. So let's look at the map first. I'll put it on my screen. So here's the map of Chichen Itza's plans. So in the center, of course, is the big Castillo. This was the most famous pyramid. Up in the northern area was built on broken terrain and contains many fine building sites. Many of these buildings were connected by a dense network of causeways called Bisakaboeb, which is basically like roads. There's about 80 of them in the site, going multiple directions. However, many of these areas, according to archaeological research, actually discovered these buildings were actually very colorful. Compared to what they look like today, they were actually quite colorful. And there's different kinds of buildings, but there's different kinds of groups. So, definitely pretty cool stuff. However, the northern area of the area, which is right in the north, there was quite a few dominating stuff. But the biggest one is the Temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity. And of course, one of the most well-known pyramids is, of course, El Castillo, which is the Temple of Kukulkan, which is the main people when they think about buildings here. And a lot of these structures, and they can go, and this thing goes up to 181 feet. And during the autumn and spring equinoxes in the late afternoon, northwest corner pyramid casts triangular shadows to represent the sphere deity. There's also great ball courts because they actually played the Mesoamerican ball game, one of the oldest sports in the world, played at least since 1650 BC. And this ball court rises up to nearly 490 feet to northwest. And it's the largest rest preserved ball court in ancient Mesoamerica. There's also other structures like cenotes, which was sacred. They have a temple to warriors all across here, the Azario group pyramids, and much, much more. They got tons of stuff in this area in Chichen Itza. Of course, tourism's been a big deal here ever since for over a century. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's the second most visited World Heritage Site in the country. Pretty important stuff. So about the pyramid of El Castillo, you're probably going to see the El Castillo, the Temple of Kukulkan. Apparently it's constructed between the 8th and 12th century AD. One of the unique things about this as well when people clap their hands around it in the temple, it actually mimics the sound of the Quetzal bird. And that is not accidental because obviously for religious purposes. There's about 91, all four sides have 91 steps up to the temple. And it's also related more to rituals. It's got a really unique history and stuff. That's pretty cool though. Oh, Chichen Itza, one of the really cool moral monuments here as well. So we're going to be visiting here pretty shortly. I don't think we have too much longer until we visit the city. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the slides for this one. I did work on Chichen Itza. We're going to be visiting. We should El Castillo here. Not too much fun. Hmm. So here's the thing. After we visit Cheatsy Airport, we'll fly briefly to by itself. And then we'll make our way over to Meridian. And we'll land at runway 23, 28, and we'll land and taxi to the airport. But yeah, guys, I hope you're enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun here today on this stream because it's been a lot of enjoyment. But yeah, can't wait to check out next week. We check out the rest of Mexico. pre-approaching Chichen Itza Airport. Once we approach there, we'll be so our next waypoint is going to be in 22 nautical miles. Then from there, we'll go ahead and I'm pretty excited for next week. I think I got the airport. Pittsburgh, Chicago, Toronto, New York LaGuardia, Louisville. I guess Charlotte, and finally a mystery destination. here's Chichen Itza Airport, and I think the archaeological site's over here. We're about ready to get into... We're actually going to slow this down a bit. Here we go, guys. Here we go, guys. We're going to drop down to... We're going to make our way to Chichen Itza. And here it is, guys. Chichen Itza. That's the Chichen Itza site, so let's go ahead and visit it. Look at that. This here is Chichen Itza. If you guys are interested, it's in the sim actually, and there's the famous town. that stunning, guys? Pizza. So yeah, we have our final destination here. Just about 63 nautical miles left. So, now we left Chichen Itza, and now we're going to our final stop in Meridia. That will be our final stop here in Mexico, everyone. Meridia would be our final stop for the day. We're just 56 nautical miles from our final stop. So Meridia will be our final stop. So Meridia, Mexico, is the capital of Yucatan and the largest city in southeastern Mexico. Population is 921,000 people. Its metropolitan area is 1.36 million. 1.316 million people. It's the cultural and financial capital of Yucatan Peninsula. It has a rich cultural heritage thanks to the synchronism between the Mayan and Spanish cultures. The Cathedral of Meridia was built in the 16th century from nearby Mayan ruins and is the oldest cathedral in the mainland Americas. The city also has the third largest Old Town district in the continent, and it was the first city to be named the American Capital of Culture, and was the only one to receive it twice. Also among Mexico's safest cities as well in the Americas. It's a very safe city in Mexico, despite Mexico historically having issues with crime. This city actually has not had those issues, thankfully. It's actually a pretty safe city. Its main economy is mainly for investment. Investment banks like to do some stuff here in Meridia. And of course, it's got a rich cultural heritage, tons of unique architecture, mainly from the Mayan revival architecture. And as a result, Mayan traditions are very successful here in the city due to the fact that the Mayan culture survived. It has a rich food culture here. So they have some really cool food options such as papadules, which is Mayan meal with pumpkin seed soaked corn tortillas. They also got pokchuk, which is basically grilled pork, their own which is the Mayan version of it. Sopa de lima, which is lime soup with chicken broth base. And more. They got tons of unique food. There's tons of historic sites all over, including many of the Spanish colonial buildings can be seen in the historic center of Old Town. There's also Merida Cathedral and plenty of museums, including the Yucatan's Mayan Museum as well. So pretty cool stuff. Merida definitely has some really cool stuff. City. And finally, for our last stop, and that is Merida International Airport. Mike Delta is Meridia's main international airport. It's the gateway to Merida in the state of Yucatan. Offering flights to and from Mexico, the United States, Central America, and the Caribbean. Focus for Viva Aerobus, one of Mexico's low-cost airlines. It's one of Mexico's fast-growing airports, and last year was a record 3.67 million passengers to make it Mexico's 8th busiest airport. As well. Featuring 2 runways, 1028 at 10,500 feet and 1836 at 7,500 feet. And some destinations include Mexico City, Cancun, Dallas-Fort Worth, Miami, Flores, Guatemala City, Houston, Camagüey, Cuba, Havana, Los Angeles, Santa Clara, Cuba, and even Toronto Pearson. Just at least some of the destinations here from Merida. So, guys, that is the slides for today. I'll be giving you the rest of the slides coming within the week or so. Yeah, that's it, everyone. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope we get to see you all on Wednesday. We got some pretty awesome flying here. Mexico City, which should be an absolutely awesome trip. Yeah, Meridian would definitely be a really cool place. So we'll be visiting Mexico City. We'll also be visiting on the way to Mexico City. Tuxtla Gutierrez will be landing at Angel Albino Corzo International Airport. So guys, hey Kata, good to see you. Kata, good to see you. We're about to make our final stop in Meridia. I hope you're having a great day, my dear. So we're gonna go ahead. So we're gonna make our final stop here, Mick. Oh, nice. I hope you had a good time at the air show. That sounded a lot of fun. I'm hoping Bowman Fest happens this year. Okay, it's October 5th. Okay. Okay, they got the Bowman Fest this year. Oh, nice. You're doing it again this year. Nice. Oh, here it is, Meridia. So we're gonna go ahead and land. Oh, I thought Strasbourg were bigger than the Galaxy. No, Super Galaxy is huge. Yeah, the Super Galaxy is massive. Massive, massive machine. You know, Strasbourg, the Super Galaxy is massive. Which basically is massive. That makes sense. The Super Galaxy is absolutely huge and can carry a massive amount of payload. Like, no joke. You can carry up to 281,000 pounds of cargo. Basically, the Super Galaxy is basically basically the Super Galaxy basically is more modernized cockpit and stuff. And all that massive payload, and it can actually also have a range of 4,800 nautical miles with a 120,000 pound payload, or 2,300 with a max cargo. And despite all this, you'd be surprised this thing can take off only within 5,400 feet of takeoff, which is for a plane that large is kind of impressive. It is. It's a massive cargo plane. Here we are, guys. Final landing of the day here in Meridia, Mexico. That's for sure. It is massive. And here we are. Final stop. So that's it, everyone. We made it to our final stop here in Meridian, Mexico, everyone. So that wraps up the stream, everyone. We finally made our final stop here in Mexico. So guys, thank you all so much for joining along with me on this trip. We had a great time visiting Mexico. We still got 2 more flights into Mexico next week. The next time we'll be back on this journey will be on Friday. We'll be visiting Mexico City, the pride and the jewel of Mexico. So, today we're on the raid. We're going to raid to a good friend of mine, Boozy Sheep, a good friend of mine. So, take care, everyone, and have a great rest of the week. And see you guys in Pittsburgh on Wednesday. Goodbye, everyone.